This is a podcast by WellHouse Church, where we talk about what it's like to be a Christian Monday through Saturday, to live as a person of faith in a culture against faith. So let's talk about psychosis.
Let's do it.
First, how was your day?
It was good. I don't like saying that my day was busy anymore. I'm trying to break that habit. My morning was great. I didn't, just in full transparency, I don't think I got out of bed until like 9:30.
Nice.
This coming from the dude that normally wakes up at like 5:30.
No.
So yeah, it was, well, that's not true. I woke up at like 7. No, I woke up at 6. But I just kind of laid in bed and chilled, and I made some coffee and went right back to bed and just chilled until I got up and took a shower and got ready and then went to work.
Yeah. Well, good.
So it was nice having a chill, relaxing morning. Once I got to work, life got crazy.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Well, my day was just okay. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday where they did some things to my leg, and it's hard to get up and move around.
Yeah.
And so I worked from home today.
It kind of sucks being like struggling with just self-sufficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was just okay. I mean, I laid on my couch with my leg elevated all day today.
Yeah.
Because I can't flip and get around really.
Yeah.
I can, but it's painful too. So I try not to. Especially because I'm going out of town on Friday and I don't need this thing to be hurting.
I hope it's not, because it's already Wednesday.
Yeah, I know. But my day was okay.
Good.
At 3:30 though, I got 5 emails of just projects being dropped on me.
Yikes.
Yeah, so I was like, I have an hour and a half to get all this stuff done. I didn't get all of it done. There's one thing I have to do tomorrow. So, that's sitting on my shoulders.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
Because you kind of because typically you're done working by Wednesday for your day job, aren't you?
Typically.
Yeah. So
but I had to take off yesterday. So
to go to the doctor. Yeah.
Well, to go to the doctor and do something for my field practicum. But
Got you.
Which, is what it is.
Yep.
So, psychosis.
All right, let's do it.
Everyone has to be familiar with psychosis in some way, shape, or form.
Well, I was going to say, can you just give a general definition of psychosis? Because I feel like that's a word that gets thrown around a ton too.
It is. So I'm actually just going to read what this says, and that should be sufficient. Once again, coming from the Department of Mental Health. I don't remember the source off the top of my head. Go look at older resources. It'll tell you. Or older episodes, it'll tell you. But psychosis describes a mental health challenge in which a person has lost some contact with reality. The person may have hallucinations and delusions and severe disruptions in thinking, emotions, and behavior.
Okay.
So it is essentially a loss of reality.
For any duration of time, or is there does it have to be for a certain length of time?
I mean, I'm not actually sure.
Okay.
I don't think it has to be, because people can have what we're about to talk about, psychotic episodes.
Okay.
Without them being them having significant duration. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And typically these episodes happen in 3 phases. So we have the prodromal phase, which is just very basic.
Okay.
It could look like a number of things. It could look like depression, anxiety, sleeping disorders. Honestly, it's just a very basic place, right? Social withdrawal, right?
Okay.
It could look like a number of different things, but this is where it starts.
Okay.
Then it moves into the acute phase.
Okay. Once again, the acute thing. I wish I understood that better. I know I don't, but it's okay.
As the person becomes unwell, they may start showing psychotic symptoms such as delusions, hallucinations, and disorganized thinking.
Okay.
Right. So this is, you can see it slowly elevating.
Progression. Yeah. Or escalating. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. Escalating.
Yeah. Because it starts out at a very basic level. It looks like it could be anything. And now you're starting to see like actual symptoms of psychosis.
Okay.
Right. Delusions and hallucinations. Now, the difference between delusions and hallucinations. Hallucinations, you are seeing something, smelling, hearing, tasting, your senses. You are experiencing your senses in a way that is false. So, for instance, if I looked across that room and I saw a being standing right there, that is a hallucination.
Okay.
A delusion is a false reality.
So, okay, I'm trying to process the difference between those. So, a false reality is even though I'm in the safety of my own home, all the doors are locked, I'm in no threat, I don't feel safe. That's a delusion.
That could be a number of things. That doesn't have to be a delusion, though.
Okay, so give me an example of a delusion.
I climb up on the top of your house, and I jump off, and I expect that I'm going to fly.
Okay.
Right. Or, I wake up tomorrow morning, and I all of a sudden believe that, I don't know, I'm George Clooney. Right.
Okay. Okay, I see it.
It is a construct of life that is false.
Okay, got it.
Just at a very basic level.
Okay, so one is visual, the other is construction.
It doesn't have to be visual.
Well, but something, yeah.
Something in which you experience your senses that is not real.
Okay.
So I could taste blood in my mouth.
Oh,
and
okay.
not actually have blood in my mouth.
And that falls under the category of hallucination?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. Okay, interesting.
Hearing scratching on the walls, banging on doors.
Okay.
Those are hallucinations.
Are hallucinations more common in trauma victims?
I would say that that's probably true.
Okay.
I don't have data on that, but I would say that's probably true because we see that. We see hallucinations in post-traumatic stress. Mm-hmm. So I could see that being possible.
Okay.
Then we move into the recovery phase. So just like we always talk about, there is always a way out of these sorts of things, right? A psychotic episode doesn't last forever. That's why we call it an episode.
Right.
The recovery phase is essentially the individual coming out of that episode.
Okay.
Right. So usually starts on like an individual's journey return to their home, like normal life. So like say you had an episode and I'm trying to hold back a bias here. And you ended up going to a psychiatric hospital.
Okay.
My bias, and I'm just going to be honest, those psychiatric hospitals, 90% of the time, are horrible.
Yeah, not great.
They're horrible.
Not great.
So that was the bias I had to hold back. But
yeah, there's counties. Yeah, the one in Houston, the main one.
There's also one in Beaumont.
Not great.
Neither of them are good.
Not great.
Neither of them are good. But I digress. That goes into a whole big policy issue that we don't have time to get into. But say you're coming out of this psychiatric hospital and you're on your way home, lots of times that's when the recovery phase kicks in.
Oh, okay.
Right? Just because like you're returning to a normalcy.
Okay.
Right? So people with psychotic disorders, which is psychosis, right? Are at a higher risk for suicide.
Okay.
As you would expect, right? I don't know. I would expect that. Maybe the average person wouldn't. But think about like if you're experiencing delusions and hallucinations all the time, and you're healthy enough to realize that these things aren't real.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want for all that to be over?
Yeah.
You know? So the risk for suicide makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's very understandable.
More than 30%, and this is coming from some researchers, Taylor, Hutton, and Wood, 2015. More than 30% of people with a psychotic disorder will attempt suicide at some point in their lives. And 1 in 5 people with a psychotic disorder consider suicide over the last 2 weeks.
Wow. So it's a
big problem.
Well, but it's not a battle for a season. It's a battle until you get your psychosis under control. Yeah. And like 1 in 5 in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And 40% over the lifetime of their psychosis.
30%.
30%. Yeah, that's a battle that you're going to have for the duration of until you get it under control.
Whether you get on meds or therapeutically, it gets fixed.
Do you know what the percentage of people that have episodes of psychosis versus those that get on antipsychotic medication are? Like how many of it can resolve in therapy without antipsychotics?
I don't know. That's a good question that I wish I had thought about before we.
Well, I'm just curious because antipsychotics, just the medications themselves, because they are so powerful and they directly affect the neurons in your brain. I mean, there are times where there are severe long-term effects of overusage of heavy antipsychotics.
Yeah, and just as a general rule, this is what we say, right? In the world of mental health. Okay. Here again is a bias that I'm about to show. And I'm going to straight up say there are people that disagree with me on this and that there are a camp of people. I say that's influenced by pharmaceutical companies. But you don't hand out drugs until you try to fix it with therapy first.
Yeah.
Right? That's just like a general rule that people in my camp take.
Okay.
Right? If you think that therapy no longer works or could also still work in conjunction with meds, you refer out to a psychiatrist.
Okay.
But only once therapy and your interventions have proven not to work.
Okay. Got it.
So even with a person experiencing psychosis, I would still start with therapy before we went to meds.
Okay.
Because it could still work.
Yeah.
And 1, meds are expensive. 2, they have very detrimental things that they can do to your brain.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I mean, there are some people that even have like the muscles in their face change because of heavy and prolonged antipsychotic usage.
Well, yeah. So that's definitely a part of it.
I mean, it's just it affects every part of your person.
Yeah, and then it can screw up your chemical imbalance or your chemical balance, right, as well, for after prolonged use. And not only that, you can become addicted to them.
Yeah,
and so you have withdrawal symptoms.
Oh my gosh.
It's literally a mess. Yeah. That's why it's a last resort.
Yeah, that's hard.
So now we can't talk about psychosis, and we have to do this pretty quickly. we can't talk about psychosis without talking about schizophrenia.
Okay.
Schizophrenia is a subset of psychosis, right?
Okay.
And approximately 5% of people with schizophrenia die by suicide.
And what percent of the U.S. population has schizophrenia? Diagnosed, obviously.
I don't actually have that number.
Oh.
Excuse me while I look it up.
Even still, I mean, you realize that just in the few weeks that we've done this, we're at like a significant portion of the American population die by suicide from mental health related issues.
So psychotic disorder, pre-COVID stat, take this with a grain of salt. Psychotic disorder statistics estimate that between 0.25 and 0.64% of people in the U.S. suffer from a psychotic disorder.
So we'll say 0.5. So half of 1% is 330 million Americans. 1% would be 3.3 million. So
about a million, a little over a million.
1.6 and some change.
Yeah.
Have this, and you're saying 5% of them die. Wow.
5% of people with schizophrenia, not necessarily just like a psychotic, just general psychosis or a different psychotic disorder, but with specifically schizophrenia.
Those are not great numbers.
No.
That's a lot of people.
And here's the thing that really gets me about this. Psychosis normally starts in your teens and up through your mid-20s.
Okay.
Young kids.
Yeah.
Barely even started life. Yeah. Maybe even haven't started life.
Yeah.
And they're experiencing psychosis.
Yikes.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's rough.
So back to schizophrenia real quick. Once again, and I hate that I have to do this, but once again, schizophrenia does not mean split personality. Like we talked about last week with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia also does not mean split personality.
Okay.
It does not mean multiple personality disorder. It does not mean dissociative identity disorder. Okay. Schizophrenia is a psychological term that refers to a change in mental function.
Okay.
And it could look like unusual or disorganized thinking is typically what it is.
Okay.
It does not necessarily mean dissociative identity disorder.
Okay.
Lots of people get that mixed up, and whenever I correct things like that, it's because it adds to stigma.
Yeah.
Because it's just misinformed.
Right. That makes sense.
And so a lot of what we're doing here in this series is I'm trying to get people to think outside of what the media has shown them.
Yeah.
Because think about it. If you were schizophrenic and people were like, okay, so which of your personalities am I talking to today?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just want to punch someone in the face?
Yeah.
Right.
And blame it on your ulterior identity.
It's so misinformed.
Yeah.
And it's
unfortunate.
It's very irritating.
Yeah.
Because you're entitled to your opinion until it starts stepping on someone else.
Yeah.
And your misinformed opinions are adding to stigma about a large group of people.
Yeah.
So that's why I correct these sorts of things.
I get it.
Just thought I might have to throw that out there. So throughout history, we see times where people have been talked about as being possessed by a demon.
Mm-hmm.
And, we see it in the Bible, and we see this as like a real thing happening, right? I'm not trying to say that demon possession doesn't exist, right? Because we see it happen.
Yeah.
But when you start getting into probably about the Middle Ages, and probably even a lot before too, you have to consider the possibility of demon possession maybe being some level of psychosis. Now, in the case of Jesus in the I Am Legion, right, like very clearly demon possession,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I actually think in most, maybe not in one-offs where it says, and he was there and performed many miracles and exorcisms. Like Mark does that all the time. Like Mark's like, yeah, Jesus is always doing crap. He was doing exorcisms and healings and all kinds of stuff. Then he went to the next place. We don't really get the stories of what he was doing.
Right.
Maybe in those you could say it, but in the ones where the stories are detailed out,
right, for sure.
Exorcism surely did happen.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100%.
And so here's my dilemma on the spiritual side. There are a lot of people in the Christian faith that are like, oh, well, mental health problems are always demon possession or oppression. No.
False.
Just
incorrect.
Could not be more wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same point, I don't want to swing the pendulum the other way. It says
it's always
mental health, and there's no more demon
warfare.
possession. Yeah. And oppression. Like, I think both of those things can exist, and as a matter of fact, they're not even mutually exclusive. Why can't someone have both?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, if you're being oppressed by a demon, possibly even possessed,
yeah,
you're gonna be experiencing trauma.
And probably psychosis, because you're going to be seeing what could manifest as psychosis, because you might be seeing into a spiritual reality that you don't normally see.
Yeah.
And that could feel like psychosis.
It could to you. It most definitely would to your psychiatrist.
Yeah, exactly.
But in reality, it actually is demon possession, right?
Yeah.
And so the reason I bring that up simply is because the only place that you can really go to in the Bible for psychosis is demon possession, right? And like you said, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive.
I don't think they are.
You can have both.
Mm-hmm.
You can have one without the other.
Yep.
But they're both real, and they both need to be considered as options.
Yeah, for sure.
But here's the thing. Just like demon possession and the exorcisms that Jesus performed, and bringing restoration to these individuals, and taking the evil that is inhabiting their bodies, in the case of I Am Legion, and casting it into pigs, if that's not a statement, I don't know one.
Yeah.
Jesus has full control over the evil in your life, whether it's demonic oppression, possession, or it's a mental health challenge like psychosis. Jesus has full control, and you can let go and give it to him. And we will pray for you and with you for restoration.